we'd like to start off by thanking everyone that's been watching the channel so far. It's been an awesome launching the channel. It's been really fun making content for everyone, and we really look forward to growing the channel and starting this community.
With that being said, we are going to start a new series in our channel called Fearless Fridays. Fearless Fridays is going to be a podcast or a Dare to Live chat where every first Friday of the month, we're going to be interviewing someone who is doing amazing things in the community and daring people to actually do the things that are on their bucket list and action plans. So this first week, we have Dynamo, who is the founder of Axen, which is a goal-oriented, goal-setting and goal-getting group based in Miami. I hope you enjoy.
How about first off, it's a pleasure to meet you. You know, I heard a lot about you from everybody, and this is the first chance I'm getting to meet you. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I've really resonated with your message in terms of Dare to Live and what you guys are putting out there into the universe in terms of how to just live your best life. So it resonates with what I'm looking to do and what Axen's all about, and I'm just really excited to have this conversation, this chat, this Dare to Live chat, and see where it heads.
So I wanted to invite you because you were the first person that came to mind when we were thinking about doers. And the way that I heard about what you do is through another event, because we had our cards, our Dare to Live cards. They said, this is amazing. You should definitely go to Axen Group because they do exactly what it is considered of setting their goals, getting things done, and really supporting each other and offering feedback. I'd love to hear about how you started, where you think this is gonna, where you want to take it, and how you've been influenced by your group.
So my name is Dynamo, and I am the founder of Axen, which is a goal-setting support group where we get together and we encourage and inspire one another to achieve our dreams. It was started in 2012, and it was started because I felt frustrated. There was a bunch of things I wanted to do with my life. Do you guys know anybody who knows all the things they need to do to be able to get the thing that they want, but for whatever reason they don't do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sound familiar, right?
Yeah.
And we know that person intimately.
Yes.
And so that's who I was. I was reading all the self-help books. I was following, Tony Robbins and all the other self-help gurus, and I was watching TED Talks and doing all the things, but I intellectually, I was downloading the information, but I wasn't doing anything about it. So even though I was going to conferences and doing neuro-linguistic programming training and all that stuff, there was still something that was missing. And for me, what it was is I felt like there had to be a place where I could go and kind of get some accountability and some social pressure. And that saying that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I just didn't really have a really empowering environment. So I felt like if I could find a place where I could go, maybe like a book club or something like that with some of these personal development books, that we could hold each other accountable to actually do the exercises and implement it in our lives, we'd be actually able to live it instead of just understand it and agree with it. And I didn't find anything, so I made it. And now it's been over 6 years, and there's about to be a dozen clubs nationwide. Actually, there's one internationally now. And people have done all kinds of amazing things, from learn how to juggle to start businesses and nonprofits, build schools in third world countries, overcome their fear of public speaking, see the northern lights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there is no goal too big or too small. We just get together to, like I said, encourage and inspire one another to achieve our dreams.
So if we were, new attendees of your group or your meetup, how exactly would you, approach us and, have us open up or explain your mission that's going on here?
The first requirement is you have to shave all of your hair. You have to be completely like an infant. Like, you have to shave everything. No. It's and then you have to wear robes and drink the Kool-Aid and bring out a goat. No, it's really the only requirement that we have when people show up is that if you show up, you got to share. A lot of people will come and not want to share. They're like, oh, I just want to watch, but that's taking and not putting back in, right? Because even if it's just you sharing your fears or like not knowing, that's you're putting something in, right? Because other people can resonate with that and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I came and I didn't know what my goal was and all that, and it kind of helps them see like how far they've come. But really, so that's the only requirement. But when people show up, the first thing that we do is we everybody introduces themselves and shares their goal, and then for new members we give them a notebook, and we ask them their favorite color, and give them a notebook that hopefully we have that color. If not, we find a color that's adjacent. And then when we give them that notebook, we tell them that their first assignment is to write down 150 life goals, and that's the first part of really the self-discovery process, because it's about like a lot people will come and have had just a bad breakup and they're just like, oh, I don't know what I want, and so it's kind of like getting them to focus on what it is that they do want. And why 150? Because there's that number makes you stretch. Like you can, if it was just like, oh, write the list of your goals, and the list was 20, right, and we didn't give you a number and you just wrote 20 down, the fact that it's 150, it's already kind of setting the bar high, which is part of the culture of the club, is making you stretch and get out of your comfort zone. So when you hit that wall at 30 goals or 80 goals or 100 goals or 110, the 150 makes you stretch and kind of think of stuff that's really out of the box just to get to that number. And that's what like the first thing that we do for the members. And so we make it really welcoming. Everybody has a time to share. There's a timekeeper that makes sure that everybody has the same amount of time to share, but it's bringing people in and having them learn how to excavate their own goals and figure out what it is that they want for themselves. So that's how we welcome them, is kind of like sharing a notebook, giving it to them for free. There's no catch in the club. Everything is free. The only investment is your time and your own desire to be able to get what you want out of it.
What was a fear that you have overcome, that you had growing up, and how did you overcome it?
I was a painfully shy little kid. I was born here in Miami, but I grew up in the Dominican Republic before starting school, and they used to make fun of me. They used to call me Slowly because I was so shy and like timid and all that. And my mom would say when I was a kid, "Tú tienes que ser más dinámico," in Spanish, which is basically translates to, you got to be more dynamic. You got to be more dynamic. I wish the house would catch fire to watch you wake up. And so Dynamo, which is my name, is actually a middle name that I gave myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I legally changed my name and I gave myself a middle name. So my full name is Ivan Dynamo de Jesus, and I didn't have a middle name. And because as I grew up, I really wanted to shed that identity of like being slow and shy. And I was afraid, because I'm an only child raised by a single mom. I probably had some desire to like connect and didn't know how and felt inadequate. And I remember that being the feeling and the fear of like being seen by people. And I really believe that we create our own realities. And so what was a weakness turned into a strength for me, because I focused on it and I started introducing myself as Dynamo, taking that story of my mom saying, "Tiene que ser más dinámico," you have to be more dynamic, and turned that into my name and my identity. And when I would introduce myself in college to people and say, "Oh, yeah, my name's Dynamo, blah, blah, blah," especially at bars to girls, they would say like, "Oh, what's your real name?" And I would say something to seem interesting, like, "What is reality?" And it really kind of taking that fear of being seen and of expressing myself and connecting with people. It was one of the first times that I confronted my own identity and self-limiting beliefs and shed a certain portion of who I was. And sometimes you have to die to yourself to be able to be born to yourself. So like the death of the caterpillar is the birth of the butterfly, So that's essentially where, like, my name, every time somebody calls me Dynamo, it's a reminder that, I can do whatever the F I want.
I love that. I did not know that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so now it's on my birth certificate, my passport, my license, and my mom, hates the name, but even she, acknowledges that, like, she admires me for it,
Yeah,
she's
that's
proud of
amazing.
me.
I'm thinking about the physical manifestation of, jumping in and trying new things.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest thrill that you've experienced, and how has that influenced or how you experience the world or interact with the world?
There have been a lot of extreme sports activities that I've done. I've gone hang gliding, whitewater rafting, rock climbing, skydiving. Did I mention hang gliding? Yeah, hang gliding was really scary. Scuba diving. I've done about over 90 of my goals out of the 266. Oh. And the ones that have been the scariest, though, aren't necessarily the ones that are like adrenaline pumping. Or the scariest thing I've ever done is one of the things on my list was to have a psychedelic experience. And I did ayahuasca.
Oh boy.
Yeah, let me tell you, buckle up. Yo, like, I've done a lot of different things, like, like a lot of the extreme sports stuff. I've done stand-up comedy open mics, I've done public speaking, I've gone, streaking and skinny dipping and all the things that are on my list. And but the ayahuasca and, the whole psychedelic adventure that I went on, it was incredible. And that's what I would say was the scariest, because it, in all the other scenarios, like, it's scary to be in the airplane and when they open the hatch and you're in an airplane with an open door.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Have you guys gone skydiving yet?
No, I want to, but I can see.
Let me know when you guys go. I'm down to go again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
No.
We're gonna hold you to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's on. It's in the interweb, so I have to do it now. So yeah, when you're in an airplane, and flying's a little scary, but when you're in an airplane and a little airplane at that, and you feel the wind and all the gust, and they open the door and they're like, all right, you gotta stick your legs out and hook your legs under the airplane. You can tell your brain, like, okay, legs, come on.
Right.
But my legs were not moving.
Yeah.
Like, it was just not cooperating. So that's scary because of the implications of, being a bug on a windshield of somebody's car down below. But it's different when your entire reality is stripped from you when you're doing a psychedelic ceremony. And I don't do any drugs or anything like that, but it was one of the things on my list. And an Axen member told me that if I could do mushrooms, psilocybin, mushrooms or something like that. But if I wanted to do 10 years of like self work in 6 hours, do ayahuasca. And it's done with a shaman, and it's done through a Native American church that's protected through the Religious Freedoms Act, and all that. So it was a very controlled environment, and it's not like a party drug. It's people are like throwing up in buckets and like screaming and yelling or crying and like doing real deep emotional work. Let me tell you, the fabric of reality is paper thin. Like, because I didn't believe that you could take a substance and the ceiling would turn into the ocean, and you'd delve into the ocean and then explode into a bunch of eels that are rainbow colored. And it's like, okay, I can imagine that. Like, I've seen, cartoons and stuff that do that, but, come on. No, it's real.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's the scariest thing because you lose all concept of time and all concept of who you are. And I experienced what they call like ego death, where I totally disappeared. I was, there was no longer Ivan de Jesus or Ivan Dynamo de Jesus or Dynamo. There was none of it. It was just like, total dissolution of everything. And that was the scariest thing, because my ego was clinging on like a cat being put into a bathtub, like clinging on for dear life. And there's nothing scarier than that, is feeling like you're essentially losing your mind. But that was the death of a large portion of what I thought. But I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of like spiritualism and connection, and like stuff with like my feminine and masculine energy, and like my true power, and like my calling. And so I did it a bunch of times, and it really helped. And it helped with the depression, and it helped with my like calling. It helped with like just my confidence and my self-acceptance. And I'm not telling anybody to do drugs. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what worked for me.
Do you have any fears now, and what are they?
Oh, I have. Yeah, I have a bunch of fears. I think as long as you look down and you're above ground, you're gonna have fears until you're 6 feet under. I mean, it's just part of being human. And our brains are, I mean, our limbic system in our brains is built biologically. It evolved because we're able to look at problems and anticipate danger. And so, yeah, fear is absolutely, like, I have my own business. I work in healthcare, and I'm anticipating an email today from an attorney from some large deal that we're doing, some like merger. And I by the way, that was one of my Axen goals, was to be able to create my own business. There's a lot of things I want to do with my life, and so but I'm anticipating this email, and I'm afraid that the deal's falling through, and that that the attorney is talking to the client, and there's going to be cold feet. So yeah, there's fear of being a fraud, right? Of not like achieving enough, of being like not good enough. Like there's all that, but that's a very human experience. And I think what makes it okay is being able to not have shame about that and being able to talk about it. So I share my fears readily, and I write a blog post every week. I've been doing that for over 6.5 years, where I'm very candid in the things that I'm struggling with, and I go to therapy, and I go to therapy not because I have any problems really, but just kind of like a self-exploration. And I have a therapy session today where I'm like trying to, it's like going to the gym, like there's things mentally that as you begin to explore yourself and delve into those fears, it's about going towards that fear. That's the biggest thing. So if there's a big predominant fear right now, it's probably of the success that I could have with Axen, because it is something that's there's jobs, there's careers, and then there's callings. And for me, Axen is a calling. It's a matter of not being paralyzed by that fear. Right. That fear is always going to be there. It's like gravity. It's part of being human.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us, most of us, deal with some type of imposter syndrome. Feeling like, wait, why am I here? Like, am I good enough? Are they going to find out that I'm not as good as they think? Mm. And it is debilitating to wake up and, if you're going to a networking event, or if you're just meeting people and you start to second guess, like, oh my gosh, they seem so interested in what I have to say. Yeah. Like, what if I say the wrong thing? Mm. I'm not really that interesting. Mm. So it is definitely reassuring to know that other people think that way, especially someone as dynamic as you. In that, with that being said, how do you silence or turn down the negative thoughts in your head? And how do you turn up all of the positive affirmations that you give yourself? What type of daily tactics or daily routines do you implement? I know that you said therapy, but what else do you use?
There is a different version of technique or therapy that works for different people. Some people really enjoy meditation, other mindfulness, other some visualization techniques and neurolinguistic programming, or some the Tony Robbins stuff, or landmark, or gratitude training, or some of the chimp paradox, chimp management system. Like, there's so many different methods. I think the most important way to kind of confront that is to understand that you can't believe your thoughts. Like, that's essentially what they all point to, is that your thoughts are a map. They are not the reality. So when I have those thoughts, sometimes I know I have to stay in it, and I have to not try to like change it right away. But then it's a matter of realizing, okay, what is it that I really am looking for? And most of the time for me, because the times that I get the most hijacked by my brain and start going into like negative thoughts, are when I don't have a lot of certainty, and I have a huge threshold for uncertainty because I'm an entrepreneur. But Elon Musk has a quote where it's like being an entrepreneur is like chewing glass while staring into the abyss. And it really is, because there's so much uncertainty and you have to do these difficult things and you just have to continue to chew on the glass while staring into the abyss and like wondering, why am I doing this? But it's essentially getting back to that center of like, what's the principle of what it is that I want. Stephen Covey talks about beginning with the end in mind. So when those moments happen, it's knowing that those thoughts are momentary and that the only constant in the universe is change. And if you need to take a day and go buy yourself some ice cream and watch some Netflix, that's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Mm-hmm. And not being so hard on yourself. But one of the techniques that I do is I do like breathing techniques, or I meditate, and that seems to work. But it changes depending on the person. For me personally, it's essentially just understanding that it will pass and being really cognizant of just my breath. That works for me.
And also having like an accountability partner. It's good to have someone who is going to be hold you accountable for your shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was so interesting because in my third meeting at Axen, which just happened this Monday, I was having a conversation with someone, with my group, and someone called me out and was like, well, that sounds like an excuse. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, okay, all right, I need to hear that, because not everyone is going to tell me that. Or like having someone that's going to kind of keep you in check, or having someone that's going to remind you that when you're complaining, like, how about you look at it this way? You know, why don't you, like, what about you thinking of it this way? You don't know this yet, you know? That's what I heard at Axen too. Like if you're making the excuse that you don't know something or you're not prepared yet. And just having a different way of, or hearing how other people are putting things into perspective, into flipping your switch, into thinking positive thoughts, or just adding simple words like yet, or soon, or one day, kinds of takes those negative thoughts and makes them an action item. You know, makes them, makes it a path, makes it a journey, rather than something that is a barrier. So, yeah, I think that definitely having these thoughts and being able to deal with your thoughts and feel those thoughts, or feel those feelings, but not allow them to consume you, is definitely something that, you know, humans have a struggle with.
Yeah, that's part of the human condition. But to go to what you were saying about somebody telling you or challenging you, Axen isn't about just sitting around the table and singing Kumbaya and like, oh, you can do it. Mm-hmm. That is, I guess, good to an extent, but you also, what I look at it as, and what the community that we're building is, to have mirrors for one another, right? So that when somebody's struggling with their goal or achieving something, you can see a part of yourself there. And you know, when you see somebody that was struggling then achieve something, but you're gonna get something by osmosis. You're gonna think, oh well, why can't I do that? Like, they were just as doubtful, and now look at them. And also, part of what we implement, and it's something that we're going to be doing soon, and it's part of the culture, is a lot of the getting real or radical honesty, or like fierce conversations, like that whole honest communication. Because the more loving thing to do is, if I had something in between my teeth, right, the most loving thing to do is be like, hey, you have some spinach in between your teeth, instead of just letting me walk around like that, right? And so a lot of the times we feel like, oh no, I don't want them to feel bad, or I don't want to crush their dream. No, if you say, hey, I know you want to be a filmmaker, but you're in Miami and you're trying to get financing for a feature-length film, don't you think you should go to Hollywood? Like, have you given that some thought? Right? Like, that's not crushing their dream. That's like saying, like, hey, this may not be the market for what it is that you're looking to do. Why aren't you in Hollywood?
So if someone's interested in getting involved or even starting their own Axen meeting or club, how can they contact you? How can we all make sure that we're following what you're doing?
Great, yeah. There's a website. There's also some Facebook groups. Right now we're in 12 different cities, and the idea is to be able to create this into a community of thousands and thousands of clubs, and with millions of members. And the way that they can get in touch with me is at axenclub.com. Also on Facebook, Axen CLub, and on all the social media platforms, it'll be Axen CLub, AXEN Club, CLUB.
Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure to meet you. We finally met face to face.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I end all meetings by saying, I'll see you on the mountaintop. And the reason is because we're constantly striving for more and striving to like improve and climb and all that. And I love what you guys are doing, because you guys are really daring people to live that type of life, to push them, and by walking your talk. And so, yeah, this is an honor to be here, and thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Special shout out to HGAT for letting us use the studio. It's an amazing place. And thanks again, Dynamo, for the interview, coming out and taking time out of your day to be a part of what we're trying to do. And great job, Niani. It was amazing,
Thank you. We're kind of testing the waters here, so let us know what you guys like and dislike so that we can have some kind of feedback and know exactly what to put on our page. We want to put out what you guys are interested in watching. So we're looking forward to growing and evolving with you guys. And please give us a like or a subscribe if you have been enjoying our videos thus far and you want to see our journey and be part of it.
As far as content is concerned, do you want to see Miami? We do live here. We do live near South Beach. We could cruise around and see the sights. She is a Miami native, and she knows all about, not only the tourist spots, but the cool places that people don't know.
Yeah, we want to add some Miami adventures in there, into this content. So if you're interested in seeing what we have to offer as a city, or basically kind of getting some recommendations on where to go that, is partying with the locals, or just tasting the local cuisine, that's something that we can definitely do. Just comment and let me know let us know that that's what you're interested in. Thanks again.
All right. Until next time.